annual giving campaigns, how to bring in money year round. I think this is even more important in light of the stats that Jared is talking about, and knowing that we need to focus so much time on major gifts, but we have also got to focus time on annual giving in order to expand our donor pipeline, our networks, our opportunities to further get those people in as part of our family. So I hope that today's topic will really give you all some ideas to get off of that roller coaster and be a little more planned out for your year to be as effective as possible in the annual giving category. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jake to get us started.
Thanks so much. So the question that we get surrounding this a lot is, hey, my annual campaign or the annual giving piece of my fundraising program does really well and at the end of the year, but I just feel like it's very stagnant the rest of the months. And this, follows the national trends. I think it's like a third of all giving happens in the last month of the year, and 11% of all giving happens in the last 3 days of the year. That doesn't mean there's a giant push starting December 29th every year. It's just that people are looking at their overall taxes sometimes and looking at their year in giving and then holidays. And there's a lot of factors. It's just easier to get this type and size of gift towards the end of the year. So we're saying, what can we actually do to kind of spread that out a little bit and get a little more consistent revenue from our annual giving program in the spring and in the summer, and when people are harder to track down. And as Marty mentioned, as we need to be focusing on larger level gifts, because we know that's going to be most of our revenue for the year. First slide there, Trish. So the first thing that we know, and if you can pick one thing and take one thing away from today's forum, it is building a strong foundation with your annual giving team. We love to recruit anywhere from 10 up to even 15 sometimes volunteers, philanthropy volunteers specifically dedicated just to the annual giving stuff. The reason that's so effective is there's a lot of things that are repeated tasks, easy tasks that they can take off of your plate as the development staff person to free up your time to do the things that you need to be doing. So it kind of fall into two camps. Either you spend a bunch of time doing annual giving stuff year round and you lose out on all the revenue you get from doing major gifts and larger campaign activities, or you just don't do this stuff at all and maybe you get some year-end stuff or not. So those both feel like bad options to us. So our third option is to really engage with our volunteers and give them kind of an annual calendar of events so that they feel excited and supported. Feels a little counterintuitive, but the best way to recruit and retain a volunteer is actually to keep them busy. If you recruit people and they show up and they don't feel like they're doing anything, they're going to stop coming to meetings. And if you get the right people in the room, as that being our first kind of point here, you want to make sure that you're maintaining them by giving them tasks. We don't want to overload people with what we're actually doing, but it's so important to make them feel like what they're doing is purposeful and impactful for your organization and mission, and spreading that out through a calendar of events that hit different months of the year is the best way to keep your revenue high in this specific category for the course of several months that aren't just November, December holiday time. So first and foremost, take a little bit of extra time to recruit the right people. We try to rush and push and say, we got to get to 15 people as quickly as possible. And if they're not the right people, it actually takes us longer because then they end up falling off the team, get to recruit more people again, and then you take 6-8 months to do the same thing. So take your time, get people who are really excited, dedicated. They don't have to have high wealth accumulation. They don't have to be very experienced fundraisers. They can be younger families, younger couples, younger people who just believe in your mission and want to help out at some level. But it's really, really important to get the right people in the room. Say you get your first round of people that you recruit and it's only 6 or 7 people. Sit down in that first meeting and spend the last 20 minutes of your hour talking about, hey, who else do y'all know who might be a really good fit for something like this? It's not as formal or as difficult as board service. You're looking at maybe 3 hours a month or so. And a lot of the stuff we do is really fun and it supports a great cause. Who else do you know in your circles that you could recruit and bring to next month's meeting? And everyone kind of around the room talks about who they want to recruit. And you have the development director write it down and assign it out so that they know when they show up next month on the 17th, they're supposed to bring that friend. And if everybody brings one, you're done. It's not quite as perfect as that every time, but we want to try to get those right people in the room by starting with a core group of really, really strong people and going out 1 degree of separation from there. The next biggest mistake we see all the time is recruiting a bunch of people and then giving them no direction, saying, hey, figure out how to raise money or come up with some creative ideas on how to do this. The two things that result in that usually are they assign you things to do as the development director. They say, we think you should do this, 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 this. And you're like, I didn't really bring you here to have you tell me how to do my job. You can't say it like that. You have to be a little more nice. But if you just open it up to any activities, they tend to assign you things instead of assigning them things. And the second thing is they don't know what to do. A lot of times these are first-time fundraisers, first-time givers, first-time volunteers. So to come in with a program and a schedule of events and some specific training, education, and support so that when they are doing the onboarding, they feel very well supported and equipped to do the things you're asking them to do, that's absolutely key. So it really starts with building your foundation of team members. Spend a little bit of time here up front, and it will save you so much time in the long run, as almost setting this as a little bit of a set it and forget it team, so they can be bringing in revenue year round, and you can focus on the things that are most impactful and important for you. Next slide. The next thing is once everyone is recruited and trained and oriented and you have your team rocking and rolling, keeping them focused is obviously the hardest thing to do with this group. You do a lot of different things. You do a lot of activity and event-based things on a yearly basis. It's not as cut and dry as you bring in and churn prospects and people have a very specific formulaic thing they do. So sometimes reining in the enthusiasm is the hardest thing we do with this group. So the best way to start that is to keep them focused on very specific tasks that you've laid out in advance. Say, here's what we're doing, y'all. They don't know any different. You're just coming in. Here's what our annual calendar of events looks like. Our clients often will try to do a spring drive. We try to offset the year-end giving by about 6, maybe 8 months in each direction, so that we're having a big push for our annual giving program late spring-ish. So you're far enough away from the holidays, but you're not so close to the summer that families are traveling yet. You can still get a hold of people. And we do a big focused 6-week effort where you send out letters and you make phone calls and you send out emails and mailings and do some Facebook campaigns and all the stuff that works and supports that. But you don't have to do that every single month of every year. Like I said, pick 6 weeks, late spring, really dial it in and focus on doing that about opposite, so that you're every 6 months have a big year-end drive and you have kind of a spring drive. And again, let them kind of take ownership and do a lot of the legwork and admin work for that to kind of free up your time. We have templates and stuff you can use for that. The next thing is, if you're doing a mailing, and some of you are, some of you may not be, but get them to support you in doing that. The average national return rate for just solicitation letters, and this is not even if you buy a list, this is if it's your mailing list, is about 0.5%. So you send out, hey, remember us in your giving this holidays, 200 people, and your average is going to get 1 of those back. Send it to 2,000 people, you're going to get 10. Now, you might be doing a little better than that. And we're hoping that, especially if you're a client of ours, you've made some optimizations that improve that. But on average, if you get your annual team members to personally sign or write little sticky notes and stick them on the things, or to hand address those, your rate goes up by about 10. So if you're looking at the national average being 0.5% return normally, your percent goes up to maybe 5% or more. If you have additional optimizations in there, it might even be 8, 9, 10% return rate. So if you're already doing these things and you already got a mail appeal going, getting them to help personalize, customize, and use a pen and ink is going to tremendously help you. Also, that's something you don't have to do. You don't have time to sign 1,000 letters as a development director, probably. But a group of 15 can knock it out in a couple hours, especially if you provide food or alcohol. Very easy for them to do that. So that's a huge thing that helps save, again, pulling back your time, still getting the thing done. It's something you're going to do anyways. You're just kind of carving it out and giving yourself more time to do that. And the last thing is recognition and stewardship activities. So this is, again, one of the things that often falls to the wayside, but is incredibly important to do, is to not just contact your donors when you want money from them. You want to get them used to interacting with you and getting excited to take your phone calls, open your letters, because they're not all solicitation forms, or I'm calling because I needed $500 for this and another $600 for the event, and won't you buy our ticket for the gala and all this stuff. So you want to kind of train them that as they're interacting with you, it's not always, we need this, we need this, we need this, but we're giving them stuff too. And it might be as simple as information or a story about someone that you've helped, or updates on the project or the campaign, but get them trained to enjoy hearing from you. And if you're only ever asking for things, they're not going to get to the point where they enjoy hearing from you. That's a lot of stuff to do. So that's something that your annual team can take over for you, or do a large component of, like a thankathon around Thanksgiving, or signing thank you letters in the spring, or sending out Valentine's cards to all of your donors. There's unlimited things. We're actually going to go over some specific examples, and Shauna will kind of walk us through a few things that our clients have done that have worked well, but really have all these like repeated admin type tasks that fall into your lower level donor categories, especially with recognition, thank yous, stewardship. These are things that you can assign to this group, and they have a lot of fun with it, especially if they're the types of people who don't like asking for money and they're not going to do that. point them in the right direction, move that enthusiasm to a space that you know you have to get this stuff done anyways, and you know it's effective, but it doesn't have to be literally they're sitting down with donors every single time. So that's kind of a general high level overview. I'm going to turn it over so we can kind of walk through this to give you some more specifics about what we're doing.
Great, thank you, Jake. So I want to emphasize what Jake said about our donors and our prospects loving to hear from us. And while the volunteers really help with that piece, there is some work that we can do on the back end internally to make sure that they are enjoying hearing from us, which is really personalizing our approach. It's segmenting donors, it's tailoring our appeal so that they feel as though we have put in extra work to know what they're interested in, right? So segmenting our donor database is really the first piece that we want to look at. And that involves dividing our donors into different groups or segments based on various criteria. So what does that mean? Well, we can take a look at giving history for one, right? And analyze the historical giving patterns of our donors. That can be a lot of work, but if we do it on the front end, this is going to help us to translate that small percentage that Jake was talking about into a more successful percentage, right? So if we segment, we're going to look at let's say large contributions. Who has given us large contributions? We're going to speak to them differently than we would speak to someone who's given to us sporadically, right? And we want to know who our new donors are versus our donors who have been consistent with us forever. That can help us to really tailor our approach to each segment. We want to look at their engagement level. So how much interaction, how much engagement have they had with our organization? Have they been to events? Are they volunteering? Are they participating in campaigns? So why is this important? Because we're going to segment differently with highly engaged donors than we are with people who have maybe not had any interaction with us. We can all fall into the trap where we send a letter and someone actually takes the time to read it and they realize that it does not apply to them. As in, we hope that you will get involved with us. We hope that you will become engaged with us and it's your campaign share, right? We need to do a little work to make sure that we are segmenting. Also, we want to look at preferred communication channels. What does that mean? We have people who want to get those letters by email. We have people who want to have phone calls. They want social media. So we want to make sure that we have a broad spectrum in terms of our annual appeals as to it's not just a letter going out. It's the letters are powerful and they serve a place, but we want to make sure that we have preferred communication channels and we have segmented our donor base accordingly. So next, once we've segmented it, then we are able to tailor those appeals to those audiences, right? So what does that mean? Crafting personal messages. We want to create targeted messages that address specific interests and values of the donors. Okay, so let's say that we know that this particular area of donors, they're interested in breast care, or they are interested in foster care, or they're interested in saving animals, right? That is crafting a personal message based on what it is that we know that they are interested in. Another piece that we need to do this is we need to use language and a tone that resonates with them. Again, I'm not going to speak the same way to my younger donors that I am for my veteran donors, right? There is a level of traditional language that needs to happen based on who it is that we're speaking to. So consider the age, consider their gender and their cultural background of donors, right? That's really important when it comes to salutations, especially. So then we also want to highlight impact and outcomes. Okay. We want to, if they've given to breast care in the past, we want to make sure that we are highlighting what they've given to in the past. And we are letting them know how it aligns to what we're doing in the future. Okay. And once we've done that, once we've segmented it, once we've tailored to those specific segments, then we really want to show appreciation and recognition. This is a lost piece that happens a lot in annual fund. Use those volunteers that Jake spoke about earlier, especially within the show appreciation and recognition piece, right? We want to build strong relationships at all giving levels. Not just the higher giving levels, but we want to build strong relationships at these levels. This is where volunteers are so powerful because we are looking to constantly upgrade these donors, okay? How do we show appreciation and recognition? Thank you notes and letters. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Consider doing donor spotlights at recognition events or anytime you have the opportunity. Do a donor spotlight once a week or once a month on your social media pages. Make sure that you're including your annual donors. just like you include your employee donors. And it might not be a huge amount, but it is relevant, and it still is helping to raise all boats within your organization. Okay. Another piece, impact reports. Impact reports are powerful. And when you are dealing with a really successful annual giving program, your impact reports are even more powerful, just in strength and numbers. Okay. So don't forget those types of things. Donors want those, they expect them, and it also helps to bring trust and relevancy to your organization. And then lastly, I would say personalized updates. I love to do this. We all love to do this, where we reach out to donors and we are able to have a phone call with them or take them to lunch or something of that sort. Again, utilize your volunteers for this. Have them call, have them say thank you. Hey, that money that you gave, that $250 that you sent in, that $1,000 that you sent in, we were able to do this. Or here is a specific story of the care that was provided because of your donation. I guarantee you, if we are doing personalized updates, just as much as sending out another email or another letter, when Jake spoke earlier about they are excited to hear from us, they're excited to hear from us, and then they continue to give. So let's bebop through some examples here, and this will help to get the juices flowing here. So this is a great, we've got a few letters to start you out here with. You're all familiar with these, but these are segmented and tailored really well. Okay, so this one is asking people to consider hosting an event for a specific project, which feels personal, right? We've thought of you specifically because you have a beautiful home, or you have, this or this or that. I feel special if this is a request to me. Okay, so next slide there, please. These are two specific letters for annual appeal that address a certain area that they are asking for funding for. So they've included stories, they've included personal requests. They've got some great signatures from people that are really well known within the community. So what are they doing there? They are highlighting their volunteers. They are utilizing their volunteers in the broad spectrum of people that they know well. That's why volunteers want to be involved, especially annual giving volunteers. They want their name out there. They want to be moving and shaking. They want to be aligned with your mission. So utilize them in that. Okay, next slide. Again, this is a good example of tailoring and segmenting. We've got a thank you specifically for the kids at the Children's Hospital. I love that. Those pictures are dynamite. I know what I supported there, okay? I know what my money went towards. It evokes emotion within me. And then this piece off to the side as well, the mobile unit's so incredibly important. They have specifics in there. Why do you matter? Why do we need your money? Why did we think of you for this? Okay, another specific example, dynamite, makes me feel as though you have went the extra mile to figure out why I would want to give to this. Okay, next slide, please. And then these, I really love this evangelical, it actually says tailored to you. That's perfect. I mean, they couldn't have picked that better, but they tailor it to you. They make it as easy as possible. They are making an act, but they are saying that they have went above and beyond to make this easy for you as a donor. Okay, I love that. I love if somebody has went the extra mile and thought about what could make my life easier. They're asking for something from me, but I feel good about it. And then this great 1804 cup, everybody loves a good cup, and that is brand awareness. And it is a great example of the stewardship and helping to retain these donors. You have something that makes them feel as though they want to continue to be a part and they're supporting you. Okay, so we've talked about that, and now we're going to head into the next section by Ms. Marty.
Thank you so much, Shauna. So I think when you realize that no matter what you do, make it personal, it helps so much to have that thought process in everything you're doing with all of your donors, but especially in annual giving, because it can be very easy to be like, we're sending out 1,000 letters and we just, dear friend, and we mail it, right? So keeping it personal is so important. But equally important is finding those right opportunities. We have to capitalize on opportune moments and leverage seasonal and holiday giving. I would say identifying those key opportunities. Y'all, what if you're a food bank and it's National Mac and Cheese Day? There's a built-in opportunity, some random Friday in July, right? We can build an entire campaign around it. We can create a themed campaign and celebrate National Mac and Cheese Day. My point being, there's the obvious ones that we think about, you know, Christmas time and Valentine's Day, some of the bigger holidays. But when you look at your own personal missions and you find something unique, or when you're like, hey, we just have a hole in cash flow and we really want to like make sure that we're bolstering donations this time of year, look at those calendars. There are all sorts of sort of made up holidays that we can just have fun with, right? I'm sorry, mac and cheese. I'm not meaning it's a made up holiday, but hopefully I didn't offend anyone with that.
All holidays are made up.
But we can find something. So we need to capitalize. So there can be naturally built in holidays that just work in the flow, or there could be just, okay, we have a gap and we want to find an opportunity. So do some research, think about what can be creative and different, and be different. Don't be the organization that only sends the year-end letter or that sends it every single year at the same time. You got to have some of that consistency because people do have that expectation, but throw in something creative and different and get your volunteers involved. You know, what's your favorite holiday, or what are some of your favorite things? Or when you think of our organization and the mission, what are the things that you think of? And then try and come up with a reason to tie in an inspire to action moment, right? And have that create that themed campaign that you can do so much with. Because I just was thinking of all the fun things you could do with mac and cheese around today, and what an incredibly easy thing for people to just wrap their head around. And they might be like, well, that's random. But if you ask and you point to that date and you say, we want to have a goal of reaching this much support so we can feed this many people with this much mac and cheese, you know, that's very tangible and relatable. So I love that today was National Mac and Cheese Day. I thought that was a fun example we could look at. But let's look at a couple more samples we've got that have been some really great campaigns. If you can see there on the left, it is a heart, but that one actually, I think, is sort of the year end, actually going from Thanksgiving to year end on that left side. And then we have Valentine's Day. I mean, a red heart is a very powerful image. It ignites emotion just naturally for most people. So lean into that, right? Find that people love your organization. And just build something fun and exciting. Images, pictures, stories, all of those things can really be helpful in that process. Next slide, please, Trish. And then last, but certainly not least, and we've sort of talked about this and continually talk about this, the importance of cultivating ongoing relationships and engaging our donors year-round. So just like Jake said, we need to engage our volunteers on an ongoing basis. They need to feel like they have that sense of purpose, or they're not going to be engaged. Our donors need the same thing. You have to resist the urge to have your annual giving campaigns be a transaction, because it is so easy to be like, I just need to check that off the list. I need to do that. And I'm going to focus on major gifts, which hopefully you're doing, but you have to build the relationship with your annual supporters and keep them engaged, cultivate that sense of community, provide them with regular updates, offer them benefits and opportunities that feel like it's special for me. People are involved with your organizations because they want to be a part of something. They want to make a significant and meaningful difference. And if you continually remind them of that and give them opportunities throughout the year, you can really, really definitely hone in on what it is that makes them tick, and you can optimize and maximize their giving and help them to expand their relationship with your organization. We've got to, find ways for our donors to connect with each other and the people who are benefiting from their support, right? So that is one of the biggest reasons we advocate for giving clubs, especially in annual giving. So often when I am working on an annual giving campaign, I am so much more focused on, join us as part of the 1959 club or the 1804 club. Join us, be a part of this. So much of the conversation that I have with most of those appeals is about belonging and being a part of other people who are also involved, right? Use names of people who are involved to inspire others. We want to be involved with people who we believe in, who are also supporting our causes. And then your mission, can just be the icing on the cake once you've gotten them connected in that way. So if we're able to cultivate that sense of community and that shared sense of purpose, it really, really makes your supporters be loyal and be annual givers year after year. Those regular updates on impact, again, success stories, testimonials, progress reports, impact reports. People want to know some of the tangible outcomes of what you've been able to do. And we've got some great samples here in the next slide that I'll walk through with you. But, we do say facts tell, stories sell. Well, once you sold them with the stories, you got to kind of keep those facts coming their way as well, along with the stories, to make sure people really can tangibly understand. And we need reminders, right? We forget sometimes. We're all inundated with so much information that we might think we're doing a really great job. We sent out an impact report this year, but we got to keep dripping that information throughout the year. And that's where involving your volunteers in stewardship and looking at it from a calendar perspective. I think the theme we have to remember today is we want to look at our annual year, look at, not saying, okay, we're going to do our appeals and our stewardship activities. We're going to just check that off the box in January, and then they don't hear from us again. No, this has to be a consistent, intentional process where we are communicating with our supporters. So we are not only doing appeals throughout the year that are going to bring new people into the mix, but we are also having those stewardship opportunities and that communication throughout the year to keep our supporters engaged and keep them interested. So again, that when it comes time that, it's time to ask me for my gift again, I'm so excited because I've heard from the organization so many times and feel really, really good about that. On that offer exclusive benefits and opportunities, everybody likes to feel like they're important and appreciated and valued. And so, oftentimes when you're having some sort of function at your organization, if you extend the invitation for the members of your annual giving club to either have early access or just join us as a valued member of the club, to be a part of this, and pointing out like you're receiving this invitation because you are valued or you are a VIP of sorts. Behind the scenes tours, groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, special educational programs, just little perks to make people feel valued, even if they don't show up. If they start hearing those messages and they say, wow, well, I know this, I'm in the know, I'm a part of something because of my generosity, that's going to inspire me to want to keep doing that and keep seeing all the great things that are happening. So let's move on into the next slide and take a look at a couple of these samples. On the left, those two are both really great impact reports. I think I love the format of both of these. You sort of have like an infographic or a little or a number that pops out that tells me something, right? That's going to say, wow, they've been able to raise, $940,000 from the employee giving there at the hospice for the hospice home campaign. At that middle one, there's 40 volunteers. Wow, it tells me something. 1,000 donors. Wow, I'm a part of a really big group of people. It just, success breeds success. So the impact that you're showing and highlighting is super helpful. That same thing it's a little bit smaller. I can't read as many of those things out there, but it's, volunteer services, veteran-centric care. It's showing specific, tangible things that are being done with the money that's being raised. And it, gives me a bulleted list. It's easy to consume information, and having, if you don't have an impact, at least in one impact report that you're doing each year, I highly encourage you to do that. We've got lots of samples for our clients And really, it's a helpful tool to be able to leave as a leave behind if you've made an ask, to be able to send out and say thank you. You can utilize it with your volunteer force to help them, equip them with the confidence to either make an ask or say thank you. There's so many useful ways to use that. There's two other examples on the right side. Those are for recognition events. Again, that fostering that sense of community, join us for Cinco de Mayo fiesta, a Western jamboree. I think anytime you can theme an event, it just gets that sense of excitement, really helps for people to know, okay, they want me to come, I'm excited to learn about it, but I can also have a little fun flair, maybe it's themed and I dress up, just have fun with it and have your volunteers own it and create it, and then they'll be all in, and then they'll invite their friends to do so, and the momentum in that is huge. So just a few samples that hopefully you can use as you're looking to make sure that you are fostering that sense of community and providing those updates on the impact of giving to your supporters. I believe that is our final and closing slide, and we do have just a few minutes for questions if anyone has any questions for us today.